For the YouTube audience, we're recording now. What's up, YouTube?
YouTube.
And we're going live on Facebook right now. It's going live, looking like it's connecting. And what's up, fight fans? Welcome to another episode 23 of Stoner versus Stoner. One of your favorite places to check out MMA news, breakdowns for fights, as well as what's happening in the dramatic world of MMA, which is becoming ever more expansive, ever more dramatic. With me is my co-host, Don Stoner, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Don.
What's up, everybody? I'm a Jiu-Jitsu black belt, under Higa Machado, school owner, competitor, compete in Jiu-Jitsu tournaments anywhere I can, and fight fanatic.
I think we both fit under that terminology of fight fanatic. I mean, I don't know what your memories of MMA are, but I'll never forget when my dad came home with his work cooler saying, "Son, I got this VHS that somebody got off of pay-per-view the other night, and it's wild. We got to watch it." I'm like, "What is it, Dad?" He's like, "It's cage fighting." I'm like, "Cage fighting? What's cage fighting?" He's like, "We take the best martial artists from all over the world and we put them in a cage with no rules and we see what happens." And I mean, granted, I don't know if we got the best martial artists in the world of all the martial arts. I think we can agree that some of those guys were maybe not as the high level as they had touted their expert skills to be. But we did kind of get a first taste of human kumite, where we got to see people with all weight classes, no holds barred, and that was shown in fights like with Joe-san from Joe-san Do.
Joe-san.
With the nut shots.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget that Chemo ripped out the eyebrow of Royce Gracie in one of the fights as well, where Royce actually didn't make it to the championship fight because he had broken a couple ribs. Where we'd see fighters fight 3-4 times a night to get to the championship rounds to make any money at all. Joe Rogan with a full head of hair. We saw John McCarthy in his early beginnings. We got to see his career blossom and bloom from there. Now he even has a successful podcast on top of everything else. Just a crazy time as far as really finding out what martial arts were super effective. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was easily one of the most important martial arts, and that was shown very early on. What were your experiences of the first UFCs?
Similar to yours, we went to a Blockbuster, living in the Valley at the time, Chatsworth, and we went to a Blockbuster, and my dad's like, "Yeah, let's watch this. Don't tell your grandparents." And we threw it in, and it was Royce Gracie and Dan Severn, and I was a Dan Severn fan. I always liked the wrestlers. And then I got into wrestling before anything else because of Severn. I just loved Dan Severn. And I didn't really understand Royce, I didn't understand what he was doing. It always looked like he was losing and then he would win. And then Don Fry, I loved Don Fry. There was another guy, Kevin Johnson. So I would watch all the wrestlers, and it was just a real spectacle, man. When Gerard Gordeau knocked out the sumo guy's tooth in the front row, that was pretty cool. One glove,
the Gary Goodrich elbows.
Oh yeah,
got him the crucifix and put him out with that.
Devastating, man. Yeah. Gary Goodrich, man, what a career he had.
Man, just absolute madness.
Yeah. Who else? What was another guy who there were so many freak shows, Joe-san was pretty cool. Ken Shamrock, of course, loved Ken Shamrock. Yeah,
that was the day, man, where you can see a 155-pound Muay Thai fighter go against Dan Severn, who suplexed him over and over. I don't know if you remember that. It was like UFC 2, I think. And he just caught him in what WWE wrestlers would call a German suplex, and never let go. He just picked him up and slammed him, I think, 4 or 5 times. It was something to see, man. It was very cartoony. But as the years developed, fighters obviously realized that being a specialist was helpful, but encompassing many important aspects of multiple martial arts really became the standard and really became what mixed martial arts is today. And if you really want to see how far the sport has come along just in the past 10, 15, 20 years, I highly suggest you go back to the old UFC catalog and see some of the old fights, because it'll definitely give you perspective on how far along we've come. And you got to think about how these martial arts, some of them are hundreds, some of them even like 1,000 years old. And they went through a large period of time where there was no growth, where there was no change, where there was no modifications. It was just based off of whatever they had developed. And to see martial arts kind of get defibrillated from its ancient state to modern state, I think is really an incredible growth. Very comparable to, say, technology or the automotive industry, just how quickly once a design and an idea caught wind, it gained traction. And
Yeah.
now, you're able to have a jiu-jitsu school and teach the community.
That's it, man. Jiu-jitsu is the fastest growing martial art in the world, and thanks to the UFC for sticking in there and not giving up and promoting the sport and making it into a sport, really. Because it, could have very well, just kind of, people still would have practiced, but it wouldn't have been like it is today, where it's the UFC's its own universe, man. The UFC is its own deal. And now of course it's hard for other organizations because the UFC has all this time and they've refined it and they have the best athletes. And one of the cool things I always like to see is like techniques coming back. You see karate come back every here and there. You see a great karate fighter, and then you see some boxing techniques where it's almost like people forget some of the techniques, and then they watch some of those old UFCs, or they watch a specific K1. They'll watch K1 and they'll bring back some techniques, and like things are always evolving that way. And there's so many arts where any art, it evolves at its own pace. So like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like the leg lock game, the guillotine game, the Kimura game, and then the stand-up, you have, the spinning kick game. And so it's like, it's evolving on all these different ways. That's why it's so hard to get to the highest level in the sport. There's so many techniques. There's only so much time in a day for people to train, and if you're not studying, you're falling behind,
What's really interesting about that too, is that it's not always the most complicated techniques that resurface and dominate. Just last year in the 2020s, we had the low calf kick make a reemergence that kind of took over the sport again, where it was one of those moves that really became kind of a standard in a fighter's repertoire. Kind of like when, say, Lyoto Machida or Anderson Silva threw that front kick on, I believe it was Vitor Belfort the first time he threw it, if I'm not mistaken. If it wasn't him, it was Shogun Rua. But he caught him up the middle with the front kick, which is one of the most basic kicks in karate. But because it was on center line and the way it was thrown, all of a sudden you saw that front kick get thrown by like Lyoto Machida and several other fighters. And now it's become one of those kicks that just kind of get flung out of nowhere, and people always defend against it because it's been so overtrained since the few knockouts that had happened from it. So
yeah, it's like a common technique now, that front kick to the head, whereas before, I mean, people get knocked out. Machida got Couture with it, and then Silva got somebody with it. But and then like you said,
now that I think about it, I think it was Shogun. I'm pretty sure it was Shogun that he hit with it. So, but yeah, it's just one of those techniques that I'm curious to think what the technique for 2021 is. What do you think it is? What do you think is going to be the standout new technique that's coming in?
Man, technique. I mean, stand up, or are we talking
Anything.
turkey turkey style
I'd say
wrestling?
2020 is somewhere between the calf kick and the Dagestani handcuff, which is just a wrestler's one-on-one on the opposite side. What do you think 2021? What do you think the new blazing technique or the old revision technique that people are going to use? Just take a guess,
Man,
take a poke at it, so we can look at it later.
man, man. I want to go with flying triangle.
Flying triangle. Ooh,
Flying triangle without getting knocked out on the way down.
that's
That's the hard
important.
part.
Don't want to get
That's
Carlos Newton. Yeah.
I was talking to Ryan Bader in the back of the last sub show, and I made just a stupid comment. I was like, maybe we'll see a flying triangle in MMA. He's like, no. He's like,
No.
he'll get knocked out in like 5 seconds. like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's probably
Um,
flying triangle.
yeah. What do you think, man? What do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to be ankle pick to high single. I think that's going to be the big move, and I think your boy
Ooh.
Michael Chandler might be the first one to pick it up because that's a
Uh-oh.
really good way to defend against Dan Hooker's angling. Would be to take a very severe angle at his angling and to pick up an ankle and bring it up above his shoulder level. That'd be a good way to neutralize his length too. But who knows? I don't know. The ankle pick I've always found to be kind of underutilized just because it's a great way to get distance on your opponent safely. As long as you're putting your head to the proper side. A lot of times you feel the need to put the head on the inside, but in wrestling, that's how you would do it. But in MMA, you'd want to go outside just because of the fact that, strikes are coming in and they can generate more momentum towards the center than they can towards the outside. Especially if you pick the ankle and lift it up on them. It gives you a lot of options, as well as it really immobilizes your opponent and can possibly get you to a position of side mount, or if you even toss the leg over in a takedown attempt, you can even roll up the turtle or get it back. I think the ankle pick is underutilized. I've been thinking this for a long time. Maybe
Man.
2021 is the year that the ankle pick gets the love it deserves.
Yeah. When I think of ankle picks, number one, I think of Tony Ferguson when he said he was going to ankle pick Verdum or someone. I forgot, he said something crazy, but it was pretty funny. He's like, I'll just ankle pick him. And then Yoel Romero, I think he hit some ankle picks, but yeah, you don't see many ankle picks. You don't
Yeah.
see many ankle picks. You don't see many low singles.
He used it on Robert Whitaker 2 or 3 times, and he used it to throw him off of his balance to then chase him down with a couple of combos that he tried to get him up against the cage with. Yeah, it was that. That was a really good example of ankle picking used in a fight. Good call there.
Yeah. You have to be fast. You have to be fast with it. You have to have long arms. You have to have a super good grip. It has to be a technique that you've drilled because you could get caught easily with it.
Yeah, I think your boy's going to use ankle picks on Dan Hooker. That's my view. I don't know if he's going to win the fight. That's going to be it's Dan Hooker's a really good cat to welcome this dude into the UFC too. It's funny, we were thinking of doing a list of best of 2020s, but the time's kind of passed. You've already seen your list. But my vote for the 2020 hype train, the all hype with no delivery, was going to be Michael Chandler, only based on the fact that he did not fight in 2020 when we were expecting him to. He's been on contract for 7-8 months now, and we still haven't seen any fireworks yet. But 2021, he's of course going to be stepping in that ring very shortly, so we'll be able to end the hype train and then see if it's just leaving the station or if it's at its final stop early on.
Man,
I know
that's a nail biter, man. Watching Michael Chandler fight, because I mean, we just been waiting for it, talking about it. It's interesting when you read MMA Junkie and like Sherdog and stuff, and in the beginning, on the forums, people are like, no, he's going to get crushed, and then you go back and start to watch him and go, man, he might be able to do it. He's just one of those savage beasts that you look at some of his fights and you're like, he could probably do it. The only thing, I mean, a few things going against him, but I mean, for one, he hasn't fought like that much UFC level caliber fighters. Another thing is he hasn't fought in so long, and he's good when he fights regularly. But it's just going to be really interesting to see. You go back and watch some of his fights. Dan Hooker is, for me, I've always I wanted to see him go against Gaethje or Ferguson, because I was like, if he's going to go, if he's going to go out, he doesn't have that many fights to do. He's kind of in the end of his career. Let him go out with the top tier guys and everything. But Dan Hooker's the guy. He's like top tier who could beat anybody in the division, but it doesn't have a name as big as those other guys, at least recently. But he has a skill set to beat anybody in the lightweight division. But he doesn't have wrestling. I mean, like Chandler, you know. Um, so hey, I mean, what did we said it was either going to be a knee knockout from Hooker or a decision ground and pound beatdown by Chandler, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think those predictions, I feel at least, still stand. However, this fight looks like it's going to be a war. On paper, it looks like it's going to be a war. Um, I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see Michael Chandler in action. I love seeing Dan Hooker fight. He's got such amazing footwork. Really a lot of fun to watch his angling, the way he portions his front and back feet and manipulates the movement and changes angles quickly. He's really got a similarity. I'm not comparing the two by any means, but he's kind of got a similarity of lateral movement to Israel Adesanya with how he switches his feet and cuts angles quicker. That's one thing I've been addicted to watching lately, by the way, is Israel Adesanya's footwork. Just amazing work. I can't wait till his next fight to be able to go step by step and break it down again, because man, the more I look at it, the more I'm just convinced that he has the chance to beat the brakes off of Blachowicz too. But we'll see. That fight's coming up in March, just recently announced. So that's coming up sooner than we had expected. I was expecting that to happen kind of mid 2021, sometime around June, July. But apparently he's feeling ready to go already. So that's going to be interesting. I've seen him in workout videos lately, and he's looking like he's bulking up, and he's looking pretty big. So who knows? Maybe he's not the skinny guy that Paulo Costa wrote him off as.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can work against him too if he puts on too much muscle too fast. Blachowicz is just, I feel it's just a bad matchup for Israel Adesanya, and I said that before against guys that Izzy's fought. I said that with Yoel, and I've said that with Whitaker, but he completely got in Whitaker's head. And even Whitaker's doesn't want to fight him again because Whitaker is just traumatized from that fight. But Blachowicz is so powerful and he's so mentally strong, and I don't think he's going to fear Izzy at all.
But that type of fight benefits Israel, though. If you're not afraid of him, that only benefits him. He wants you to come in on him. And Blachowicz is somebody with the Polish power that he does push. I don't know. Like you got good points too. Blachowicz is a monster. He's proved that again and again in his division, knocking out a lot of top tier talent that were on the run, trying to get the belt before he could, and no, he shut them all down. And John Jones leaving auspiciously at that time that he did, it also begs the chance that he could. I don't think he's ducking him, but maybe he didn't want to potentially hurt himself before going to heavyweight, because I know going to heavyweight was something that he really wanted to accomplish. And a fighter like John Blachowicz, yeah, you could beat him, but you might not be leaving that fight uninjured.
Oh yeah, he's going to take some damage on there. He's going to take some damage on that in that fight. They both are. Blachowicz has everything in the stand-up department to give Izzy trouble, and he also has ground on top of it. So that's where I see getting really dangerous for Izzy, and moving up in a weight class with guys that are stronger. But we'll see, man. It's MMA.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best part about it, is that you don't know until the fight's signed and the hands have been shaken and the ref is saying, let's get it on. And until then, it's all just hearsay and just us talking into to webcams. So let's go ahead and let's address the fights that are coming up this upcoming Saturday. We finally got fights again after a few weeks hiatus. Everybody needed the holidays off, which is totally respectable. Every fighter needs a break now and then. Why not the end of December, early January, best time to do it. in the prelims, I know we don't really don't talk too much about prelims, but I do want to mention that Phil Hawes is making another UFC knock, and I believe the last time we talked about him was his Bellator fight, was it? Or he
Yeah.
no,
No, he fought in UFC and he
that's
lost.
right. He had made he had made the call up and had won his fight pretty decisively with a knockout. That was a fun one to watch. A fight that you had called, and I do believe that he's a fighter to watch too. So keep an eye out for him. He's the main of the prelim. Main card looks pretty sick. First fight we have Punahele Soriano, who's a Hawaii fighter. Somebody I've been keeping a close eye on, 7-0. He's fighting another undefeated fighter in Dusko Todorovic, 10-0 fighter. I don't know where he comes from as far as the fight leagues that he's been fighting in previously, but that's always fun to see two undefeated fighters go at it because nobody wants to lose that undefeated nod. Everybody wants to keep that record pearly. And I know Punahele is a hell of a fighter. He's a big knockout artist. He trains out of Vegas right now. He trains with one of my buddies actually, so it's good to see him on the main stage. Do you have any predictions for this fight? Do you have any intel? I mean, I'm
Man,
anxious.
I don't really have intel. I mean, just looking at the records, they both had one fight on the Contender Series, and then they both had TKO wins in their first UFC fight. Um, but I haven't. I saw Punalele
Punahele.
Punahele. Yeah, I saw his fight. I'll go with the Hawaiians. You know, just in case I come up there. I don't want them to be mad at me.
You want to have good relations when you come. You can't knock
Yeah.
all of them. That's fair. That's fair. So we're gonna agree on that one tentatively. After that, we have Joaquin Buckley coming back in the ring against Alicio De Chichiro, but Chichirico, Chichirico. Um, any predictions on that? I mean, Joaquin Buckley, of course, potentially the winner of Knockout of the Year for 2020 with his I'm gonna call it a spinning back insuguri because that's what they call it in WWE, and that's what it's worth. That's definitely a WWE move. You got any predictions on this one?
Um, I'm gonna go with Buckley. It seems like it's a fight that he should win. He most likely will win. Uh, Chireco is coming off a 3-fight skid. They both have a common loss in Kevin Holland. Buckley got knocked out by Kevin Holland, so he got the worst of it. But we know how good Kevin Holland is after his fight with Jacare and after his 5-fight win streak this year or last year now. So yeah, I'm gonna take Buckley by KO.
Yep, yeah,
Early.
feels like a bit of a feeder fight. Not gonna lie. Joaquin Buckley's got great buzz, and especially that was coming off of his loss to Kevin Holland too. So they probably want to keep this train going a little bit since they do have a lot of eyes on Joaquin Buckley. So I do think that they're going to give him this fight with the intention of him scoring a knockout. I'm gonna say knockout probably by the second round too. Um,
Although Chireco has doubled the UFC fights, I've seen him fight a lot. He's not a like a real spectacular fighter, but he's when he's on, he's on, and he's a good stand-up fighter out of Italy. Um, so I mean, that being said, he could take the upset based on experience. You know, I don't think that Buckley's the hardest fighter to figure out if you put the fire on him and if you put him in a bad spot. You know, if you put him on his back foot, um, you know, and but you just have to be able to handle that power. It's a tough fight, but I wouldn't be like shocked if Chireco pulls it out. You
Yeah,
know,
if he can bully Joaquin Buckley in the match, then he has a good chance. I mean, that's what we saw with Kevin Holland. He was able to kind of take the driver's seat from beginning to end and just really put pressure on him constantly. If he's got that kind of pace, he's got a chance. But I mean, Joaquin Buckley is he's just such a heavy hitter. Legs, hands, doesn't matter. The guy hits with such ferocity, and he's shown us a lot, and I think he could do a lot with his forward momentum. And you know me, I love a good hype train. I can't help it. I want Joaquin Buckley to win. I want to see his star rise a little bit more. After that, we have Santiago Ponzinibbio. Excuse me.
Hmm.
Sorry, that's a lot of syllables. Versus Li Jingling. I don't know how to say it properly. Man, these Dubai fights, they always screw me up. Um, I don't know much about either fighter. I do know a little bit about Santiago. We've seen him fight quite a bit. He's got a lot of heart, great pace. Uh, if I do recall, he uses his distance well. If I'm thinking of the same fighter, really good reach artist there. I don't know anything about Lee. What do you know anything about him?
Yeah, Li Jinglang, Chinese fighter, very strong. Um, Win or loss, he puts on a great fight. He's definitely a warrior. He tries to utilize cage control. He's pretty has a well-rounded style, good striking game, good boxing. But Ponzinibbio, I mean, let's look at Ponzinibbio's record. Knocked out Neil Magny in 2018. It's been a while since he fought, but he knocked out Neil Magny. Before that, beat Mike Perry, knocked out Gunnar Nelson, TKO'd Court McGee, beat Sean Strickland. I mean, this guy is an animal. And if it wasn't, I think he was out for injuries the past 2 years. He wasn't. He was in the top. I want to say top 15, and he was looking like the next guy. Ponzinibbio was really looking like the next guy, and for whatever reason, injury, what have you, took him out of it. But whenever he knocked out Neil Magny, people were just like, "Holy crap, this dude's a man." So it's going to be I mean, this one I'm going with Ponzinibbio for sure. I'm going to take Ponzinibbio, and no doubt he's a favorite in bookie. I haven't looked at the odds, but he has to be the favorite. Um, it's just going to come down to, has it been too long? Has he been on the shelf for too long? You know, I mean, 3 years out of the game. I mean, it evolves so fast that's rough. And if you're not a veteran, that's rough. But I mean, based on the fact that he knocked out Gunnar Nelson and Neil Magny, I mean, dude, that's
That's quite
that's
the track
high.
record.
Yeah, that's why they're so high up on the card. I mean, this guy's a star, and I think that this is kind of to show people, hey, this Ponzinibbio's back. Ponzinibbio's back, and if he can get a devastating win, he can start to climb the rankings again. And I think we'll see him top 10 in 2021.
Well, you got me convinced. I was kind of not sure which way to go on this, but the way you speak and the names that you drop, I'm going to have to agree with you. Ponzinibbio is definitely the high favorite in this. I mean, when you just look at the records, you can see that he's got over 10 more fights than him too. So, that's always going to be an advantage.
I think that's gonna be the fight of the night too.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it too soon because the fight after that is Carlos Condit and Matt Brown.
Uh-oh.
And we do know that both those sons of bitches like to fight. And Matt Brown is not going to do any favors for Carlos Condit. He is just one of those fighters that win, lose, or draw. He puts everything on the line. Carlos Condit fighting for his future in the UFC. He believes that he's definitely on the chopping block for the contract renewal. This is the last fight on his contract. And he wants to at least either go out with a bang or prove to UFC brass that he's not done yet. What do you think of this fight, Don?
Man, it's interesting. They're both Toyota Camrys with 300,000 miles on them. But which one can go up the hill? I feel like Matt Brown. I think if you look at kind of Matt Brown's previous fights, his most recent fights, he hasn't looked as good as Carlos Condit has looked. Carlos Condit's last fight, he beat Court McGee in that stunner fight, and he was looking sharp. Previous to that, he took some big L's. He was on a 5-fight losing streak, starting with Robbie Lawler and ending with Michael Chiesa. Matt Brown was kind of the same way. I mean, the last guy Matt Brown beat with, I think, Diego Sanchez years ago. but I think stylistically, not if these guys both weren't didn't take so many knocks in their career, if I would just look at them as like styles, I think Condit is a smoother striker, and I think he can move around a bit, and I think he's more well rounded. If he doesn't get caught by Matt Brown, I think Condit will win by a unanimous decision.
I agree. The only thing I think that Matt Brown has is his toughness. I think he's the tougher one over Condit. And did Condit finish the fight, or was it a judge's decision in his fight against Corbin?
Decision.
See, that's where you start to fall into rough territory with Matt Brown. Normally, if you're going to beat Brown, you beat him in the first couple rounds. If he doesn't put him away in the first round or first round and a half, I think the fight generally swings more into Matt Brown's direction, just because he is an old dog, but he is a hungry dog, and that guy will take you into dark, deep waters and make you fight from a place that you don't know you were going to have to fight out of. That's good. I think we have our first disagreement. It sounds like you're going to go with Condit. I'm going to go with Brown on this one.
Yeah.
Although I think you're right. It is two Toyota Camrys with 1,000 or 300 miles on them, 300,000 miles on chugging uphill for sure. It's going to be the end of somebody's career, that fight. That's probably going to be somebody's last fight.
Yeah, if not both.
If not both. That's a viable point too. I think it might. I mean, I think it should be Matt Brown's last fight, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think I want to see him fight much more, unless it's against other old guys like Carlos Condit. Hey, other martial arts have the latter years divisions too. Why don't we have like an elder, not elder, what's the term they use? Or just the senior adults fighting league that goes up to 50. Why not just see him?
Yeah.
Swing
we call it the Masters division in Jiu-Jitsu, which I'm in now.
Masters.
You hit 30. Yeah, once you hit 31, you're in the Masters, and then you get into the seniors. Let's do it for you. Let's do it for MMA.
Yeah, you're now old enough to play slow pitch softball too. That's what that means.
Oh.
Hey. And then for our main event, another Hawaiian, Max Holloway versus Kattar. Everybody says it differently on their reports. I'm gonna say Kattar. I have a feeling you're gonna go with Kattar on this one. Is this true?
This is a tough one, man. This is tough for me. And it shouldn't be, looking at Max Holloway. I should just be like, Max Holloway is going to win, dominate. Because, I mean, few guys have beaten Max Holloway. This is a really hard fight to call for me, man. Because Kattar's just one of these guys has such great stand up, and I feel like he might have the edge on the Blessed Ones, on the stand up on old Maxi boy. But man, I don't know. It's tough, man. Just based on, we have to pull up Kattar's record, but the last fights that I've seen of him, he's just been absolutely on fire. Not to say Max Holloway hasn't, but
I do recall everyone saying the same thing about Brian Ortega before it was Ortega Holloway. Everyone's like, oh, the striking, the boxing, it's Ortega. And I'm pretty sure Max Holloway handed him his ass with a spoon. Badly. The last time his striking was challenged, other than by Volkanovski, who I think he beat the second time. I'm part of the majority, I feel, in that too. Although it was, I agree with you, it wasn't a robbery. I remember when I was very hot after it happened, claiming that he had been robbed. It wasn't a robbery, it was a close fight. Volkanovski deserves the respect in that it was a good close fight. But I had to score for Holloway. And when it comes to Kattar, I don't see him pulling the cord on Max Holloway. Although Hawaiians do have a bad reputation of having these amazing careers that go south quickly. BJ Penn, Kendall Grove, good amount of Hawaii fighters that have these amazing careers that pop and fizzle. And I don't want to see that happen to Max. He's still, I still think he's top of the tier, cream of the crop. Um, I see him fighting for the belt again in 2021. So I'm going Holloway all the way, easily. I think it's going to be a 5 round ass whooping. I think he's going to put it on him if it goes to 5 rounds, but I think it will, because Kattar is a tough dude. Great grappling too. Uh, great against the cage. He has some real slick moves. Um, but man, Holloway has just showed us time in, time out that the fight takes place where he wants it to happen. I mean, his last 10 fights alone just really make that statement of, uh, if it's not, he takes you to a place where he wants to go. And I see him controlling the pace again because of his insane cardio and output. But who knows? Like you said, it's MMA. Uh, Kattar's got some real skills, and he's the next generation. So he's Max Holloway's definitely gonna have his hands full. I'm not calling it an easy fight, but I do kind of see a bit of an ass whooping coming.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be dependent on Holloway's kicking game and Qatar's cage control. If Qatar can control him against cage, it seems like Qatar's more powerful than Holloway, whereas Holloway's more technical. Um, better kicks, better movement, but Qatar's way more powerful. They both have common opponents in Ricardo Lamas and Jeremy Stevens. Qatar knocked out Jeremy Stevens, and Holloway decision Jeremy Stevens. Anyone who knocks out Jeremy Stevens is a freaking phenomenal striker, because that guy's super hard to put away. Um, and then Ricardo Lamas, they both beat him by decision, I think. But um, Holloway hasn't fought those guys in like 4 or 5 years, and Qatar kind of made his name on those guys this past year. So I think that's kind of a big point too. Is kind of when they fought those common opponents. Holloway's definitely fought way tougher fights, way better fighters in his career, no doubt. He's beat better fighters, you know, Aldo, T City. Um, I mean, all the guys that he's beat. Um, but it's man, it's and you can never look at the past fights and go like, this is how it's going to happen or whatever. But whenever I see someone coming off of 2 wins, going against someone off 2 losses, doesn't matter who they are. There's a big mental game in it that I think might play a role in it. I think Qatar is going to look at it like this is his fight for sure. This is his fight. This is the fight of his life. And for Holloway, it's almost like if he doesn't beat Qatar, he's definitely looking at like this is a downslide for him, and Holloway only loses to the champs usually, when he's not the champ, like he lost to Volkanovski twice. He doesn't almost ever lose against the top five.
Yeah, the one
So
was Poirier when he tried to make the jump.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, lost to Poirier, and that's right when Poirier really hit a rise after his win over Holloway.
yeah, that was a great fight. Dustin Poirier, of course, deserved that fight, and Max Holloway was just trying to reach outside of his weight class, and there is a big difference of that 10 pounds gap in those two weight classes. Um, you know, I agree that this is Qatar's fight to win if he's the hungriest, but I do know what I I only know what I've seen, and from what I've seen, Max Holloway just seems like the more dominant fighter. When you compare the Jeremy Stevens thing, like you got to think of also the amount of damage Jeremy Stevens has taken since he fought Max Holloway. Don't forget his Yair Rodriguez fight where he got smacked around the ring for a couple rounds. And then I believe he also lost the fight before that. I'm trying to remember who that was, but I'm pretty sure that was also a TKO referee stoppage. So I mean, he's taken a lot of damage since. So I is it apples to oranges? Not quite, but maybe perhaps Qatar got a slightly softer Stevens. after he was broken by Max Holloway. That, yeah, it was a decision, but it wasn't even a fight. If I do recall correctly, I'm pretty sure that was a 5 or 6 point win in 5 rounds. Like, it wasn't even a fight. It
Yeah.
was just waxing that ass. And I have a feeling, I just have a feeling that he's just going to wax that ass again. I feel like it's just an ass waxing, wax on, wax off, Karate Kid. It's, I think we're going to be seeing some ass waxing. That's just my prediction.
Uh-huh. But then you look at Holloway's miles, man. We haven't seen Holloway um, get dropped that much. We haven't seen him get chinny, but you see guys who are at that high level who fought so many championship fights, and out of nowhere they get knocked out, and then they get knocked out over and over and over again. With a guy who fights like Max Holloway, it's just inevitable. When's that going to happen? Is it going to be this fight? Is it going to be the next fight? But Kattar's, I mean, even though Kattar doesn't have as many fights against the top guys, he's always in wars. So that might be even on, if you look at like brain damage, if that's a brain damage, level, but that could play into it too. That could really play into it. Like if Kattar catches him, can Max hold up to it? He's always been able to hold up to the shots up until now, but you get a guy who's maybe a little fresher, who's hungrier. We know how much of the game is mental. A big part of it is, and if he comes out hot, man. So I got Kattar. I think the only way, I don't think he's going to win a decision, but I think it would have to be a KO to get Max out of there.
Yeah, I would agree with you. He would have to KO Max to beat him, because I think Max is going to wax. Max, wax, service, open for business. Get yourself a cupcake while you're in the waiting office too. I do. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling it's going to be a waxing. Yeah, I have a feeling. But I do agree with you. Max Holloway has taken a lot of damage over the years, and it's something to watch out for. Now you understand what we call the curse of pen. It's something in Hawaii that we always fear. Anytime we see a Hawaii fighter making it, we're like, all right, how many does he have in his tank before he starts losing that chin or the speed or the drive or the vision? Some fighters are like, no, I'm not going to change my fighting camp. I'm going to keep fighting with the people I fought with forever. I'm not going to change anything in my diet. I'm not going to change anything I do before a fight. When your body is clearly changing as you get older, it's kind of important to change with yourself. But, it's a discipline thing sometimes. Others, it's just father time catching up. And, time is undefeated. Time will always get you. So I think Max still has a couple more years in him, though. I think he's got about 5 or 6 more fights, maybe 2 more wars in him.
Yeah, and he's still young too. And I think even like at this point, Max, I think, is like even probably the best fighter out of Hawaii of all time. I mean, if you look at, I'd have to look back at BJ's record versus Max's record, but it seems like I think Max was way more dominant. We were talking about him being pound for pound the best until he lost to Volkanovski. He was on that. He's still on the pound for pound list. I think top 10 pound for pound. So, and he doesn't strike me as a guy who's like who a couple losses gets him. He's like the type of guy who will come back and he's really mad that he's fighting Kattar and not immediately getting a rematch with Volkanovski, because those were close. The one fight was close, right? If not both.
Both fights were close. There's one that's controversially contested. I think the first fight, I feel that Volkanovski won that fight as well. So I think that one, it was close. The second fight, I thought that Max Holloway won, and he got the nod as well.
Same here. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, when Max has talked to about it, he seems to be kind of on the up and up. He's like, it's kind of hard to feel bad about a loss when 80% of the MMA community agrees that you won the fight. So maybe it's not so much in his head as it was, or as it could be for a lot of fighters. I think he's kind of taking it in stride, and I think he's probably doing a lot better without that target on his back, because when you're the champ walking around with a belt, You got a lot of prying eyes, a lot of media, a lot of people kind of invading your space. And I think that Max might be enjoying a little bit of time off. And I think we might be seeing a more refocused Max when he comes back into the ring this Saturday, which I'm super excited for. I can't wait. I can't wait. And I've been looking at the list of fights for the upcoming Fight Island events, and a lot of them are having Hawaii fighters on the card. So super stoked. Love seeing my Hawaii boys out in Dubai. What a big steps, big gains, man. That's so cool. Um, yeah. Anything else you want to say about this card before we talk about our 2021 predictions?
Uh, there's another fight I was looking at that was I think is going to be pretty good. The fight opener, Ricky Simone. Um, I think that's going to be a good fight. The first fight of the night. Um, Ricky should dominate that fight in devastating fashion. He's going against a guy, Gaetano Perello, never heard of him. Um, so I think this is one of those cards where I think from start to finish, we're going to see some new talent come out. We're going to see some guys make a name for themselves. We're going to see if guys like Buckley are the real deal. You know, there's some veterans on the card, real well-rounded card from top to bottom. So it's going to be a good one, man. I'll be watching first fight to last, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's going to be a great event. We also have the next event that's happening on Wednesday. So that's going to happen the day that we do our podcast, just early in the morning, because the fights are at, what is that, 7 a.m. my time. So it's about 10 o'clock a.m. your time. Real quick, Neil Magny, Michael Chiesa, who do you think?
I'll go with Magny.
Okay, I'll go Chiesa. I think Chiesa really needs a W, especially with after the axe coming down a lot of fighters. Do you want to choose any of the other main card fights? A lot of them are kind of auspicious. We do have Roxanne Modafferi on there against Vivian Araujo.
That's like just a Wednesday card.
Yeah,
Up and
a
coming.
lot of the fights are kind of undercardy, but the main event's actually a good one. Tyson Nam, another Hawaii fighter, coming back in there. Looking for him swing again.
Tyson Nam, he's an animal, man. I always like his fights. He's a knockout artist too for a 125er.
Mm-hmm.
The power he throws, he might be the most powerful 125er.
I agree. I agree. We did see a little bit of cardio issues in his last fight, but I think it's not. I think it's definitely something he can overcome very easily. But man, yeah, that guy packs dynamite in his fist. Ridiculous how much authority he swings with. Yeah, everybody else, I don't really want to pick any of the other fights unless you do. I think we got a good split there with Neil Magny and Michael Chiesa.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we got fights. So we have fights this Saturday, next Wednesday, and then that Saturday as well. All happening at Fight Island. And then that last one, of course, is going to be Dustin Poirier with Conor McGregor. I have a feeling you're going to pick Poirier.
Ooh.
Because I'm going McGregor. I'm going McGregor all the way. I think it's going to be a first round knockout McGregor.
McGregor, man. Every time I pick against McGregor, he always pulls it out. Starting from his very first couple fights in the UFC. See, I always go against the guys with hype train. So that one just really bit me in the ass because then he became like the biggest star in MMA.
The biggest hype train ever. And it did, even though it took a couple stops, it never derailed. He still got all that hype.
You know what? I will go with Poirier. Poirier's a different fighter. If it wasn't for the mental side, how much McGregor got in his head that first fight and put him away so fast, I think it'd be a different fight where I could easily just say Poirier based on skills alone and how hot Poirier's been recently and how much he's evolved. He's always evolving. He's always training, and McGregor's in and out of training. But that one can almost go either way, man. I mean, I might have to wait on that until Wednesday.
Oh yeah, no pressure. That's a lot to think about, and it's going to be a big fight. But the more I think about it, the more I'm convinced Conor McGregor is just gonna knock him flat out first round. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a new technique, since we saw that shoulder thrust on Dad Cerrone that he's thrown in the clinch that was really off-putting and really dysrhythmic. I think we're going to see something cunningly similar to those types of tactics and strategies. And I think Dustin Poirier is a great fighter to use those things against because he's very well trained, but maybe to a bit of a deflect where he won't really be expecting something Connery from Connor. Although Dustin Poirier is very smart, he's got a very smart camp. But what do you expect from the man who, wears a top hat with a zoot suit? This guy is so unpredictable. You can't see where he's coming from. There's no way you're going to read it. So, but yeah, it's early. It's early. There's injuries that can happen. Coronavirus can happen. Let's not get our hopes up until we see those two blokes in the ring. Who do you think is going to be fighter of the year this year, 2021? Who do you think is going to end up being fighter of the year at the end of the year?
Who made it for 2020?
That is a good question.
Was it Holland?
That's who I would have said. Although Davison Figueredo, I think would be a good call.
Mm-hmm. Figueredo, Holland, or Kazmat.
Let's see. It looks like it was Davison Figueredo.
Okay.
Yeah, which is,
yeah.
It feels like you need to be champ to be fighter of the year anyways. Makes sense. The only fight he didn't technically win was his draw after being admitted to the hospital 12 hours before the fight. I call that a win. Debatably, Kevin Holland, I would say would be the runner-up. 5 fights in, 6 months? 5 wins in 6 months. Now he's got a number next to his name and challenging somebody in the top 10 coming up. Then we also have Khamzat Chimaev. I know you don't want to put him in the talkings of fighter of the year, but his rise is meteoric. 3 fights and he's already ranked to fight somebody who's in the top 5. That's a pretty big jump too. So I would probably put it in that order. So who do you think is going to be the fighter of 2021?
Based on that, Figueredo literally brought back the 125-pound division, fought, a week after and defended his title again. So it would have to be something as spectacular as that. And it's like, I think Chandler could definitely do it if Chandler wins a title in 2021. T-City, maybe T-City, if T-City can get a title shot, because it looks like he's hit a new level too, completely new level with his last fight that he came out in. Fighter of the year. I'm gonna go with Israel Adesanya. I'm gonna go with Adesanya.
Winning it again, because I believe he was fighting in 2019. So that would be another feather in his cap. Not a bad call either. He's got a full year ahead of him, moving up to light heavyweight, and also defending his throne, which he says he's going to do. He wants to be champ simultaneously, and nobody's arguing it because nobody wants to fight him in the middleweight category. Nobody wants to step up to him again. Nobody's going to like my answer for this. You ready? Fighter of the year, 2021. The Snake, TJ Dillashaw.
Snake?
The Snake.
TJ
Dillashaw, the snake in the grass. There's that little snake right there. That's what Connor called him. Yeah. I think TJ Dillashaw is going to come back with his 2 bionic shoulders and his 2 years of hitting saunas and gyms and getting back into training, getting back into health. I think he utilized his time properly. And I think people forgot just how talented of a fighter he was. And I don't like saying this. I'm not gonna lie. I think when you're champion and you get caught cheating, that should be a much harsher sentence, because you're affecting the lives of the children that are viewing you as a role model and the community. And it's tough. But at the same token, I'm not talking about this to make friends. I'm talking about this as far as your predictions. I think TJ Dillashaw really is going to have a great 2021 because of how much rest he had in the past couple years. He was going really hard for a while, and his body was starting to break down. And I think that might have also been a big reason why he lost the fight with Henry Cejudo, is the fact that his body was starting to kind of break down because of the fact that he was losing weight too quickly, needing to use PEDs to reach his goals. And it puts a tremendous strain on your body. And I think he learned a better way to take care of himself. So that's unfortunately my pick for 2021. What do you think, Don?
TJ Dillashaw is like, well, it's not that crazy because when I think of the fighter for 2021, it's someone who is close to the title, who's either making a comeback or who can get the title and have a good run in a short amount of time and beat a bunch of good guys. And TJ Dillashaw definitely has that potential. But I don't know, man, because TJ Dillashaw strikes me as a fighter who has to be very active. He has to really have that activity level, and I haven't seen him on the shelf like this. Unless he's made a huge change to his game, he's pretty predictable now. I mean, TJ Dillashaw kind of really evolved when he studied Dominic Cruz and started his new footwork, and he moved away from Team Alpha Male and made the camp change and then made all those changes with his strength and conditioning and things like that. But I feel like his style is more predictable. I think Rob Font will probably beat TJ in their fight because I think they're probably going to fight. Rob Font called him out, and that's a really, really good fight to have, especially after what Rob did to Marlon Moraes. But it's definitely possible, man. It's definitely. I thought you were going to say John Jones.
No, I mean that's good potential too. But I like taking the road less traveled, and it almost feels like a troll to pick him. You know what I mean? It almost feels like I'm trolling you and the MMA community by picking him. But,
you like TJ Dillashaw like I like Michael Chandler. It's kind of like one of those.
Yeah, the thing is like I really don't like TJ Dillashaw, but I mean, I can't deny his talent. It's kind of like not necessarily. It's kind of like a Kobe Covington situation for a lot of people, where it's like,
Greg Hardy for you.
Like, I hate that guy, but I can't deny that he's a talented fighter. I mean, Greg Hardy, you can deny that he's a talented fighter all day, and you have references to prove it, like like the inhaler situation or his last fight with Marcin Tybura. The list starts there, but he's got a lot of room for improvement, and that's he's in the right place. But I think TJ can piss off the world. I think he can do it. I think he has I think he has all the right things in alignment to really just run amok in the division. And Rob Font is a good call as far as somebody who could possibly stop the train. But let's not forget we're also talking about how beat up Marlon Moraes is after his fight with Rob Font. We're like, he has been getting knocked out a lot. So, let's keep that same energy because I think Rob Font would definitely have his hands full with TJ Dillashaw, especially coming off. But like you said, he might be a better fighter when he's active. So we'll see how he is coming off the bench. It all depends whether they give him a feeder fight or if they give him a championship fight right off the bat. Because the UFC isn't even talking about where they're going to put him.
Yeah, it has to be a big fight. It has to be a big fight. And, it's really cool TJ Dillashaw coming back in because, that division doesn't need like new life in it. It doesn't need a huge star to come in. It's already one of the top divisions. I mean, dude, years ago, nobody talked about 135ers, but then when you had Cruz, Cody, Garbrandt, TJ Dillashaw, that division, people started talking about it. And then that division just evolved on its own without Dillashaw, without Cruz, other guys came up and now him coming back. And I think Cruz is coming back too. So there's some good fights to make, man, in 135. Like I said, like Rob Font, I think would be a good fight for Dillashaw. Munoz would be a great fight for Dillashaw. Frankie would be a good fight for Dillashaw. There's so many fights that would be like freaking awesome to see that we haven't seen yet. Yeah, and he could definitely do it, but it just like has he evolved? I mean, it's footwork, man.
Isn't
It's
Aldo
footwork.
swimming the waters at 135 too?
Aldo, that would be a really good fight. That would be a great fight.
Coming off a big W in his last fight, that'd be a great fight to line him up for a title shot. Either one of those.
Both of them, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them. I mean, if Aldo beats Dillashaw, title shot. If Dillashaw beats Aldo, I mean, no doubt. So,
and Garbrandt, Cody Garbrandt's already been trying to call out Aldo, but I think he might get the call to have to dance with Dillashaw. I don't think they'd do a Garbrandt Dillashaw again, just because there's nothing left behind that. You know, that fight's done and gone.
I definitely feel like between Dillashaw and Garbrandt, Dillashaw it's more likely that he's a better chance for a title fight than Garbrandt.
Mm-hmm.
Garbrandt's like, he's just a one-trick pony, man. At least Dillashaw is super well-rounded, you know, but power, you know, guys will study his game. And I think that's going to be bad for Dillashaw. So he's going to have to have some new tricks.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I definitely see that.
Jiu-jitsu. If he comes in with jiu-jitsu, Dillashaw could do it with jiu-jitsu.
It's a good point. But would he do that? I feel like he likes to engage from the feet. I feel like but I mean, who knows what kind of Dillashaw we're going to see after 2 years break. You never know what his strategy's at, what his coaches are telling him. Yeah, all this is interesting. I'm super pumped. I can't wait for his return. A couple of things I'm expecting to happen. I think that Nunes and Shevchenko are going to have round 3. I think they're going to fight again. I think that one's going to take a different turn too. I think Shevchenko has an edge on that one. But I mean, that's a pretty tall order there. We won't even know what's going on until that comes to fruition, if it does. I know that's the talk that's happening. Do you think we have a possibility of seeing that in 2021?
For sure.
Nice.
You know, that for whatever reason, that fight doesn't really like excite me. I feel like there's more new blood in the women's division. I think that we're going to see more new fighters come up, like Mackenzie Dern. I'm not great with the women's divisions, but I think that there's going to be more new women fighters coming in because it's evolving so fast. I think it's going to evolve past Shevchenko. I think Nunes is still going to be dominant for a while, but we'll see.
Another thing I want to bring up while we're talking about women's division, Clarissa Shields making her debut in PFL this year.
Ooh.
How do you think that's going to go? Do you think that she's going to be a mainstay name at the end of 2021, or do you think that she's going to have a rough entry?
Oh, she'll definitely have a rough entry, but it's like what we were talking about with just the super athletes from other sports coming into MMA, and the women, especially in the women's division, what that can do for the sport, putting the best female boxer in MMA. It's going to be a learning curve for sure. I mean, 100%. I mean, Kayla, what's her name? Kayla Harrison, the judo gold medalist. She has a much better chance at winning, you know, fights and becoming the best than Clarissa Shields. It's going to be really hard for Clarissa Shields to fight top women fighters in MMA, man, because she's just a pure boxer.
To stay on her feet.
I mean that's like James Toney against Randy Couture, you know. That's like somebody that's like 6 months in MMA, but they're a great boxer. That's one of the hardest, you know, things to do. But it's great for the sport. It's really great for the sport. It's great for the PFL to build PFL's brand. And if Clarissa Shields puts years into the game, and she really focuses on MMA and moves away from boxing, I think she could do well. But she's talking about doing boxing and MMA, and whenever you hear that, it's like seems like she's not really focused on MMA. That's why I think it's going to be really hard for her. But I don't know, man. She's such a great striker. So
She's a fantastic striker, but I think at the end of the year we're going to be hearing a speech of Clarissa Shields saying MMA is hard. Kind of like how we heard how am I forgetting his, come on, don't forget his name now. The Gypsy King, Tyson Fury, when he started cross training MMA and showing people videos of him cross training. And then after a week, people are like, so you're gonna make the jump? And he's like, MMA is hard. And he just left it at that, it doesn't always translate completely. Not to say that the skills won't help, but there's a whole lot of learning that needs to happen. And she has no wrestling and no jiu-jitsu experience. Not like, oh, I learned here and there, or oh, I kind of was exposed to it. It's like, nope, none. Haven't touched the mat. So it's that's a whole new world. That's like learning how to ride a bicycle when you've been walking on your hands for the first 10 years of your life. Like you have to learn completely new mechanics from the very beginning.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree. I think she has a rough go, especially with the sharks that are swimming in her division too, that want that $1 million check. That's going to be big. Judo champions don't make a lot of money. And I think she's got her hands full. Boxers do make a lot of money. So I don't know how hungry she's going to be. Yeah, I agree. Clarissa Shields will have a good go. I think she'll probably get paired up with somebody early on that isn't really a specialist anywhere. That she gets the opportunity to pummel on. And then the next fighter will prove to be much more difficult of a climb.
Yeah, but even if she fights somebody who's 0-0 pro MMA, but's had like a few amateur fights and is like a jiu-jitsu or wrestling, it's going to be really, really tough because she doesn't have those skills. She doesn't have her reaction. Her reaction is going to be to box, and that's so easy for MMA fighters to read,
Especially if you know the ankle pick.
Somebody ankle pick Clarissa Shields, but there's the judo chick, Kayla Harrison. I think she could be like the next Ronda Rousey and even better. The fights that I've seen Kayla in the PFL, she is very, very good. MMA fans, if you haven't seen Kayla, Harrison, I think her name is.
And
Kayla
she's the reigning champ, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah.
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 I was like, I'm pretty sure when I saw her picture, I saw a belt in that picture.
Yeah, she's a hoss, and she's been at it for years now, fully dedicated to MMA, trains jiu-jitsu, trains, decent boxing, but really utilizes her judo well. Very, very strong, very powerful. When I look at that, I look at someone who, could sign to the UFC and make a run at like Nunes or somebody like that. That's how good she is.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing what's going on with PFL. We got a lot of talent moving over there too, as well as Bellator. It seems like the talent's kind of evening out a little bit, and we're going to be seeing a lot of more opportunity on other sides. Maybe not equal, but we are going to see good fights out of Bellator and good fights out of PFL. That's almost guaranteed when you see the acquisition list. Last question of 2021. Do you think there will be any change to the rules or scoring system in order to counteract these bad ref calls?
No
change.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think it's going to change.
I don't have hope either. I'm just so resigned to the fate of fighters getting robbed. Something needs to be done, but it won't be done, not in 2021, at least by our factors. All right, Don, anything else you want to say before we call it a night?
No, man, I think we covered it. We have a great year, man. This year coming up is going to be super, super cool with these fights that we talked about and other fights that we don't even know about, future matchups. I think it's going to be the biggest year in MMA, for sure. It's going to be one of the biggest years ever. Like every year before, it's always better and better. So excited for it, my brother.
I can't wait. We got fights again this Saturday coming up. Make sure you tune in. Also on Wednesday morning, both of them are in the morning. If you're in Hawaii time, it's 10 a.m. on Saturday, 7 a.m. on Wednesday. If you're in the West Coast, that would make it, what is that, 1 p.m. on Saturday and 10 a.m. on Wednesday. So set your alarms. Make sure you got the day off. Call in sick, play hooky, do whatever it takes. Also, Dana White has threatened that he's going to be cracking down on people who are pirating the UFC events. I don't know if he means just the people streaming watching it. I think he's more talking about the people who are actually streaming it, like the ones who are putting it out there for us to watch. So, and when I say us, I include myself because I do watch the fights for free. I'm guilty of that at times. I have ESPN Plus this year, so maybe I'll be purchasing my fights to avoid the Dana White chop.
I feel like it's just Conor and Poirier. Fight fans, do not stream that fight because it seems like he's really does not want people to rip him off from that fight. That's the fight that's gonna help him if they get if that class action lawsuit happens, and it's gonna bail him out and it's gonna set them up.
Yeah.
So fight fans, don't stream that. Maybe you can stream this next Wednesday card because he probably doesn't care about that.
I will be paying for that fight. I will definitely be buying that fight. I have a friend coming over, and I want to make sure that we're able to watch it unabated. There's nothing worse than when you're streaming the fights from a third-party site, and you get to the main event and everything's stoked, and then it goes, and here we go. And then it's all the way end of the first round. You're like, what the hell? Yeah. Some fights, it's worth the money, and I swear to God, this Poirier and McGregor fight will be worth the money, regardless of how it goes.
Yeah. And then you have to go through that click hell too, click all those stupid ads off. It's like just a headache, man.
Yeah. Sometimes it's worth it to pay, and other times it's worth it to go to a bar that's able to pay if you can now, or wherever you may be. But I suggest you get that fight pay-per-view through your ESPN Plus. Also, check out, if you have the Fight Pass, check out my buddy Adam Hunter's special Throwing Punches. It's a stand-up comedy special. It's actually being featured on the UFC Fight Pass for the first time ever. If you like stand-up comedy, if you like MMA, you're going to guaranteed like his special. Make sure you check it out. He's also got a fight podcast called MMA Roasted. Hilarious podcast. Does something very different than what we do, but it's an awesome one to listen to. If you're listening to us, you're probably listening to that too, to be completely honest. It's one of the most popular ones. Shout out to our listeners. Shout out to one of our new listeners who's also going to be watching the Poirier McGregor fight with me, Chad Kaya, guitar player. Dude, looking forward to watching that fight, brother. Don't forget, you told me you want to watch it. We watch it. Don, where can our viewers find you?
Find me at DStoner_LWJJ, Don Stoner on Facebook. Reach out, everybody. Love to hear your comments and love to see your likes and all the new listeners. Chad, what's up? All of our listeners, you guys been watching, and find me on those places. Hopefully, we'll do a live stream on one of these fights, and we'll get to talk to the fans while we're watching the fights.
Yeah, that'd be dope. We'll probably be doing that sometime in the near future. Also, you can find me at Chino Bra, ChinoBrah. It's on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff. Don't have any shows on VR coming up anytime soon, or at least not this week. But if you want to follow me on all space, it's at Chino Bra. Right on. Don, have a good week, man. Good luck with I know that you're able to train with restrictions, so good luck with everything for this week. Hopefully everything lifts.
Yes.
Good luck.
I train in my garage every day. I train in my garage with my dogs. That's it.
Whatever you got to do what you do, do it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the fights. As always, aloha.